Hi, this is Evelyn Lopez. Welcome to Sustainability in Your Ear, the Earth911.com podcast for the week of February 10th. We are talking today about plastics and sustainability. We're going to tell you something about contact lenses that you may not have known, what is wrong with bottled water, the ideas for you reusing silica-gel, and how to create a sustainable kitchen. And let me just say, with Valentine's Day coming up, I think these are all just little Valentine's messages, little things that we can do to be a little bit more environmentally friendly and aware. So, welcome, everyone. Mitch Ratcliffe, our Earth911 publisher. Mitch, how are you today?
Doing great. And it's a wonderful day in the neighborhood.
Excellent. You're at home in Lakewood today?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. And our Earth911 writer, Sarah Lozanova. Sarah, how are things in Maine today?
Things are good. We actually have a nice little snowstorm right now.
Oh, really good. How much snow are you supposed to accumulate?
I don't think it's going to be anything that drastic, maybe 4 inches.
Oh, so 4 inches would paralyze us, but you are more used to it.
Seattle would come to a grinding halt with 4 inches.
Right. 4 inches would be horrifying.
Anything under 6 is small for us.
Oh, that's wonderful. So, yeah, I'm recording from home today, too, in beautiful Tacoma, Washington. Our producer, Doug, is operating out of our Moonyard Studios in North Tacoma. And I got to tell you, it is wetter than wet in Tacoma today. All of Western Washington, it's just been raining. I can't even remember when the sun shone. Actually, that's not true. But
we're under a flood watch, too.
We're under flood watch. It's just, it's a lot of water out there. A lot of water. So a good time to think about little things we can do to improve our environment. So
there are so many little things we can do.
There's so many nice little things that are achievable and can make you feel like, oh, I can do that. So let's talk about them. How about the first one, which is, and I wear these every day, contact lenses.
Well, I'll tell you, this is an interesting story, and it's got a lot of traffic on the site as well. We looked at what you do to recycle single-use or short-term use contact lenses, the plastic contact lenses you get in blister packs, pop out and throw away. It turns out that 15 to 20% of the people who use those flush them down this toilet or down the sink, and that means that it accumulates at wastewater plants in the sludge that we pull out of the water. You can find about 1 pair of contact lenses per every 2 pounds of that sludge. Problem is, it also breaks, the contact lens breaks, and becomes microplastic in our water supply. So this is one of the sources of our own tap water pollution, which we're going to be talking about later as well, of plastic. So we're encouraging people to take a look at the one-by-one recycling program that TerraCycle, the innovative recycling company, and Bausch & Lomb, one of the big makers of contact lenses, have introduced. And one by one, which you can find at TerraCycle.com, or at Bausch & Lomb's site, search on one by one, will actually take your contact lenses and recycle them. And they pulled about 95,000 pounds of recycled contact lenses out of the waste stream over the past couple of years. So this is a great program. But contact lenses are something to think about, and most people don't.
This is a really good article. So the article is on our Earth911.com website, and it's about recycling your contact lenses. I wear contacts that last for about 2 weeks. So I go through 4 contacts a month, and I used to put them down the sink, not really thinking. And it was actually an article on our website about a year or so ago about microplastics that made me thinking, why am I putting my plastic lenses into the water where they will immediately go, who knows where, but into the water stream and break down. And so I started putting them into the trash. But this is a fantastic opportunity because it's not only the lenses themselves, but it's also those little blister packs that are about, 1 inch by 1.5 inches of sturdy plastic covered in a little, leaf of foil. Those I haven't been able to recycle either.
Well, and so this is a great way to take care of that. One by One has received about 16 million items to recycle. That includes both contact lenses and the blister packs. You don't have to send these wet. You can just pop the contact lens back into the blister pack and send it through.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. This article is also really, I appreciate that they said, first check to see if you've got a drop-off point somewhere near you. And so I'm going to check. I need to go in and get new contacts for the year. So I'm going to check to see if my eye doctor's office does this recycling. And if they don't, I'll tell them about it. But then I could easily just have this box on the counter in my bathroom and collect them for a year too. So I am really excited about this.
You raise a great point, Evelyn, too. Talking to your eye doctor is a great way to encourage them to offer recycling and to make more of their patients aware of this issue. I must admit, when I first learned about recycling contact lenses, I kind of rolled my eyes, thinking like, okay, is this going a little too far? But then when you think about the issue with microplastics and how different organisms can be absorbing them when they're in our waterways, and the type of toxic chemicals it's feeding to wildlife, and then even to ourselves through seafood, this is really an important issue.
Yeah. Well, and in the eye doctor's office too, when I got my contacts fitted, we were trying some different types to see if I could do better with a monovision. So I probably went through 4 or 5 fresh packets of contacts just in the trying out phase right there in the office. So if they were recycling, I think that would also be very significant.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Well, but you talked about this with the try-on period, the twice-a-month replacement. You're talking about somewhere on the order of 50 pairs of contact lenses over the course of the year. That's an awful lot.
Yeah,
so this can make a difference if each of us makes a small effort, and that is put this box on the counter and start filling it.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it's a great idea. Something that I can do that will actually be more satisfying for me, because I've been frustrated that I didn't have a good way of dealing with all those little bits of plastic. So,
well, and all those little bits of plastic, which of course is our theme today, are all around us. The next topic that we want to talk about is the plastic water bottles, this is a related issue, because plastic that we are talking about flushing down the toilet here ends up in that water through our tap.
Yeah. So let's talk about that.
A quarter of the water that is sold as bottled water comes out of the tap.
That's crazy.
And that's something that's really interesting, to think about, is a small change. Stop using bottled water and use tap water instead can save you a tremendous amount of money. Each of us drinks about 30 gallons of bottled water a year on average. Not all of us, of course, do it. And only 15% of us, 15% of us drink only bottled water because our tap water is not clean. And that means that we're talking about, tons and tons and tons of plastic that's being discarded each year. 42.6 billion bottles each year just in the United States from bottled water.
Oh, that's wild.
If people feel like their water is unsafe, there is filtration that can be really helpful. Or sometimes I'll even just fill reusable bottles over and over from a source that I know is safe, instead of buying it from the store.
Well, and that's if you can get a bottled water or bottled water delivery service where you're sending those giant plastic tubs back for refill, that makes a lot of sense to do as a way of reducing the overall plastic waste. But even then, if you end up with one of those bottles, you should be recycling it as well. And the difference, if we were to stop selling bottled water, the estimate is that we'd reduce 56 gigatons of carbon between now and 2050 that'll be released into the environment. So there are gigatons of opportunity for improvement here.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that's nice about this article about bottled water is that, we're acknowledging that, look, if you are someplace where you have, let's say, a sewage outbreak in your water system, you need to drink bottled water for a while. If there is a hurricane and your systems are down, you're going to need to drink bottled water for a while. I mean, I was very heartened when after the hurricanes in Puerto Rico, I think it was Budweiser, the beer company, suddenly switched over and was filling all their aluminum cans with water. And I thought, aluminum cans of water is a much better deal than plastic bottles. But there are times when you need that portable clean water. But the
Absolutely.
rest of the time, tap water is so I'm a big fan of tap water because it has much higher standards of cleanliness. So unless there's something that's gone wrong with your tap water, it's going to be on average much more regulated and much cleaner than what you are probably getting in a bottle.
Well, and cheaper. And I think that's
significantly cheaper.
That's the thing here. We're talking about something. Bottled water costs about 4 cents per ounce. And if you were to drink a bottled water all year long to stay hydrated, that would cost you about $1,000 a year in bottled water. On the other hand, if you use tap water, which costs 3 cents per 100 gallons, it costs you about $1 for 1 year's worth of drinking water. Now, of course, your water bill is much higher because you also sprinkle the yard and do all sorts of other things with water, like take showers and baths or wash the dishes. But the fact is that you're paying orders of magnitude more for bottled water than you are for tap water. And then across the United States, tap water is safer, as you point out, than most bottled water.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I think the whole concept of water sitting in bottles, too, is concerning, because there's the plastic and, sometimes that water can be, say, stored in a hot truck or things like that, too. So the plastic can be leaching into the water, especially if it's left there for a while. So I find that really concerning. I actually don't see the appeal of bottled water except for some of the situations that Evelyn was speaking of.
Mm-hmm. When you're on the go, I do understand people picking up bottled water, and I think that the rest of it, though, is there's kind of I think there's some mythology of sort of it's clean and it's safe when really we don't know that to be true. My parents live in Southern California where their tap water comes out of the Colorado River, and it doesn't taste as good as the water we get up here. It just does not.
By the time you get to Southern California with Colorado River water, and this is actually an ancient statistic, it comes from a book called Cadillac Desert, published in the 1980s. The water has been through 16 different biological organisms, people or cattle. So that is so deeply reprocessed water that you can taste its history.
Yeah. And
I'd imagine there'd be microplastics.
Oh, and plenty of that.
I think there's everything. And, even though it's, filtered and good quality drinking water, it doesn't really taste that great. And so they have always, my whole life, they had always had a delivery service and a big bottle, 5-gallon bottle in the kitchen. And that was what they used for their drinking water, and then used the tap water for everything else. And I think that and that's fine. But I think one of the things that we can do now, we have so many better filtration systems that you can buy for your home use, that I think that's the thing. If you find that your water doesn't taste that great, try one of the home filtration systems as an option and see if that makes it a little bit more palatable.
Yeah,
because again, that's going to save you a heck of a lot of money.
And we have articles on home filtration systems. I think the other interesting topic in this article is the environmental justice as well. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people are familiar with Fiji water, which is actually it's a delicious water.
It does taste really good. I will say that
from under an island in the middle of the ocean. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but the problem is half the people in Fiji don't have access to clean water, yet they're exporting it to the United States as bottled water. Why don't we leave some of that water there for those folks instead of boxing it up and sending it on an airplane or ship overseas?
Well, and this is the reality of many bottled water, companies that are bottling up local water. I know there was an effort down just in Lewis County, south of us, to bottle some water there. Nestle wanted to come in and bottle a large, millions and millions and millions of gallons of water. And the local population just kind of got up in arms over saying, no, we don't want our water resources used this way, because it's always a takeaway. It's always extract it from its source, and then truck it out, to bottling plants, and then move it out to who knows where.
There's an interesting question on recycling, and Nestle actually took a good step. A couple of weeks ago. We're working on an article about this now. They're going to be paying a premium price to get recycled plastic back out of the waste stream.
That would be great.
Which is something that is much needed because this is a material that can be recycled a few times before it no longer can be used as plastic, and then can be used as asphalt or something like that. But the fact is, these the water bottles that we're using today could be replaced with aluminum, which can be recycled infinitely. On the other hand, we have to think about just the distribution of water all over the earth, like you were just talking about, Evelyn. And this is an area where if we make small changes in our personal life, it will add up across the 335 million people in the United States or the 7.8 billion people in the world. If we all do this, we can actually have enough water for everybody and have clean access to water and reduce the amount of plastic in the water. So let's all stop and think before we buy that next bottle.
I think it also makes us think about protecting our local water quality. Kind of like the school system. If I'm affluent and I could say, oh, well, I really don't care what the public school system's like, I can send my kids to private school. It's kind of the same way with water. Like, oh, well, do I really care as much about the contamination that's going into local waterways if I am not drinking the water anyway? And I think it can really make us more invested in protecting water quality at the source and preventing, contamination or things like that, which, obviously has socioeconomic implications too.
I think that's true. It's sort of like the whole local movement. If you see it as part of your local resource that's valuable, then you have a much different approach to how it gets used.
Yeah, exactly. And then things like mining or fracking or things that can contaminate the water are much more paramount on people's minds.
And those are local problems that can be addressed locally rather than have to worry about where something came from halfway around the world. And again, localism is part of the solution here, is to think in terms of our place in the world and our niche in the world rather than just, oh, everything's accessible, I'll have it shipped in.
Yeah, it's interesting. Silica gel packets that come in so many things. I see them a lot in, like if you buy some shoes, they're often tossed in the shoe box with your shoes. Or if you buy a handbag or something, it may come with a couple of these little, 1-inch square packets of silica gel.
And this is a common substance that you can extract from quartz and the like, and it holds about 40% of its own weight in water. So it can suck up water, and then you can dry it out and reuse it. And so the article is about how you can take these packets and use them in a variety of other contexts, and some of which I had no idea would work. The one that was interesting to me was using it as a defogger. You can put these in a container on your dashboard, and that will help reduce the fogging on your windows when it's all the time. And that's a really interesting use I'd never thought about. But there are several others, for instance, putting them in with seeds to prevent the seeds from becoming moldy or sprouting because they're exposed to water. And the one that I liked was, which I'd never even thought about, was putting them in with jewelry or other valuables to prevent tarnishing because they'll get tarnished.
I thought that was
just
interesting too.
So there's a lot of ways to use this.
When I get them in vitamins, I'll put them in with food like that I've dehydrated. I used to make dehydrated crackers or dehydrated fruit, and that helps keep the moisture out to keep it fresher and have a longer shelf life. And,
one of the ways that a lot of people are familiar with these is that they get it with photography equipment or other electronics equipment because it's used to keep that dry while it's in storage. But it can also be used on your for your lenses and the like, if you put them in with your lenses to reduce the buildup of moisture on those. So there are ways that you can take and reuse these even that are related to the way that you get most of these silica gel packs. And looking around for those opportunities, like you were saying with the dehydrated crackers, is a way to create a route from when this thing shows up in your house to a reuse that you can use if you dry this out and reactivate it on a regular basis for virtually forever.
I was just going to say, I wonder how well they would work with photographs, because that's something that I have moisture issues with. Like if you don't put them in an album, sometimes they stick together or they can stick to the album.
Well, if you put the put the silica gel and the photos in a plastic bag and seal it, it should prevent that.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Yeah, and then actually the article says if you have framed photos, tuck silica packets in the backs of the frames to protect against humidity, which I would never think of that. So I think there's all kinds of uses. What's interesting to me is I never thought about reusing these. I can't think that I come across them too frequently, but I'm going to look for them now because I know when I have come across them, I've just been tossing them out. And now I'm thinking, wow, these could actually be really useful around the house. So,
may I ask a quick question as to how long the life of these packets? Do they absorb and then wear out, or do they work indefinitely? Or
well, they don't wear out, Doug.
Yeah, you can reactivate them by drying them out.
Yeah, the last part of the article on reactivate and reuse says the silica beads can be reactivated and reused repeatedly.
Wow.
And then it has a link to the instructions on how you would reactivate them.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so it's like even more useful.
Well, let's turn to our last topic of the day, which is how to create a zero waste kitchen. And we've got a great article from Amanda Hurd. This is something that we updated recently with a lot of new information and released. But it's a long piece about different ways that you can improve your kitchen sustainability, from how to replace what you use to clean up, getting rid of paper towels, using cloth napkins instead of paper napkins that you would throw away. There are interesting ideas about how to reuse various kitchen packaging for going to the store and asking for what you buy with no packaging. So if you can go to a zero waste store, bring your own boxes or containers that you have reused from other parts of the kitchen, you can reduce your plastic or your paper footprint as well. Yeah.
One of the things I appreciated, I have always used canning jars, mason jars, for a lot of things around the house. But I went to a sort of a pickling party over at a friend's house last year, and she just she said the best ones that she's done is Trader Joe's salsa jars are great for holding pickles and things like that. So I hadn't really realized how versatile just any jar with a screw-on lid can be, and I'm trying to use more of those in my storage, because I find sometimes the glass containers that are made for storage, they're on the heavy side, so they don't they're not as attractive for me to use if I'm like taking leftovers to work or something like that. And the jars are a really good in-between option.
Yeah, and those jars can be used not only in the kitchen, but in the garage to store things, or in the art room to store craft supplies. And thinking about every package as a potential future use. Another point that Amanda makes is that you can take yogurt containers and use them to sprout seeds or grow an inside indoor herb garden. These are all simple, small steps that you can take to make your life more rich without having to spend more on more junk.
Mm-hmm. And I think the thing is, too, what I always think of, when you're trying to find ways to cut down your plastics and to sort of be more thoughtful about reuse, it can kind of be overwhelming. There's a lot of things in our lives that are sort of designed to be, use and toss. And getting rid of all of that is, I think, maybe a gigantic challenge. But getting rid of a few things, anyone can get rid of a few things.
Well, and especially starting with a few things, and then you can do more as you get used to it. I think that's one of the nice points about the article is it talks about recycling, planning before you shop. So, we're all used to opening the refrigerator or the cabinet to see what's missing from what we expect to be there, and then going out and buying that. But looking around at the things that are already empty or have been used as potential reuse items, or as containers at the store, like we were mentioning before, it's just, think before you spend, think before you use. Both of those things are just intellectual muscles we have to develop.
Yeah, I agree. And I would add one additional layer to this. If you're thinking about, trying to swap out, let's say, get some washcloths to use in place of paper towels, don't ignore the fact that if you are near a thrift store, you can go in there and they will have, kitchen fabrics, linens, all kinds of things at a very low price. And so then you're sort of reusing that too. So that's a good source for if you want to, upgrade your food storage items or your cleaning items or anything like that.
Well, I think it's just let's get started. We've talked about this. So we're doing this here at our house. I hope that everybody out there is thinking about it and doing it too.
Yeah. And it's a perfect time to pick one thing that you could change and give it a shot. All right. Well, before we turn to Earthling questions, Mitch, anything else that's come up recently? Anything new on the website?
Well, we continue to add some new innovator interviews. We have a piece up on Devel, which is a modular, sustainable, net zero home builder that is a really interesting discussion about the future of housing. They make homes that range in size from a few hundred feet up to several thousand square feet. They have a completely sealed envelope, so they're easy to manage. They can be passively heated or passively cooled, and they have integrated solar. And so we were really impressed with this, and it's something that I think everybody would enjoy listening to.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. Well, I should note too, if anyone's wondering about Sarah, we're not ignoring her. She stepped off so she could participate in Snow Day.
Always fun.
Always fun. So I know. Let's turn to Earthling questions. We have some really good
No, I'm going
today.
outside to throw a snowball.
Yeah, okay. Rainbow.
Wait, no snow here. Okay.
No snow here. No, just rain. Lots of rain. All right. So Amy on Facebook asks, she says, are you able to help me determine if something is recyclable? We have 1,300 DVD security cases that our library no longer needs. Not the black ones they came in. These ones that they have are clear. I can't find any info on the company. Thank you.
So this is an interesting one. We had to go back and forth with Amy a few times. We finally ended up with a picture of the thing.
Good.
These clear DVD cases are recyclable in many municipalities, but you have to check about that. They're made of plastic number 5, which is, after plastic number 1, the most recycled plastic in the United States. This is the hard, rigid plastic. And these cases, if you want to recycle the VHS tapes, that's a completely different step. The DVD or the cases themselves are something that can be recycled in most places. You can also send these to Green Disc, which has a mail-in program for DVD cases. So you can go to www.greendisc.com, and disc is spelled with a K, to find out how to send those in. So there's a lot of uses. We also had another similar question about VHS cases, like I was just saying. And that's something where, the technology is starting to be obsolete, but people still keep some VHS tapes. So consider donating both the DVD cases or VHS tape cases to either Humanity or St. Vincent de Paul or Goodwill, or potentially finding a local organization that might need them for archival purposes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's always a good, I would say the recycling centers are the first place I would probably look. And then if I found something that wasn't recyclable, I might do a post out on the Buy Nothing website or something else on Facebook to see if anyone else out there had a use for it. Because you never know. You just never know what people might be doing.
Oh, you got to talk about stuff to find the answers.
You gotta have that dialogue, absolutely. So here's another interesting one. I like this one. Patrick, who's in Athens, Georgia, says, hello, I've been following Earth911 on Facebook for several years and thought it would be a good source for sourcing recycled paper products, such as banking checks and business forms. But I did not find any direct sources. Lots of ideas and concepts, but not actual sources. Or did I not search correctly? Thank you.
So, generally we don't provide information about recycled products, although that's something that we are working on. And in this case, we haven't made specific recommendations or pointed out any, paper companies that we particularly admire. However, we have been using Printworks paper, which is 100% post-consumer recycled paper for the very little amount of printing that we do internally. And this is a good paper. It holds the ink well. It's bright. It's durable paper. So I would recommend Printworks paper. You can find it on Amazon if you want. The other side of this, the check printing companies, they do offer recycled products, but you have to look carefully at what you're buying. First off, look for 100% post-consumer recycled paper products, but also look for printable checks or forms that can be recycled. If this is recycled into something that is not itself then again recycled, it isn't a good idea. And a lot of business forms are printed with various kinds of treated paper. It's treated with plastic or some other material to make it more durable, so it won't rip. So look for the forms of the checks that are made of recycled paper and can be recycled. And we don't have a specific recommendation to offer there.
Okay.
I haven't written a check, a physical check, in several years. So.
Yeah, we have. We are the same. I mean, we write a check to the friend who comes by and takes care of our cats when we're out of town. And I think there might be one bill that we still pay with a check, but everything else is automated. So yeah, writing checks is sort of dying out.
Well, and then we have another one that's related to the previous question.
Yeah. Well, yeah. This was one about the Stephanie on Facebook used to own a video store and has lots of the blue boxes that the tapes were in when they were rented. And it looks like this is also a plastic number 5.
Yeah, this is. It may also be a plastic number 4 in some cases, but most of those boxes are plastic number 5 and could be recycled in most areas. Again, you have to call ahead. In this case, if you own a video store and you're looking at a vast number of these boxes, you may want to contact a library nearby. They do keep archival collections of things like VHS tapes. And donating instead of recycling is a way of continuing the useful life of the product. But if you can't do that, definitely send these things through for recycling. And you may need to take it to a nearby drop-off facility rather than drop it in your blue bin.
Yeah.
Obviously, with a lot of them.
Yeah, we have a local video store, like one of the last video store, who is just closing down now. And I don't know what his plans are, but his store was kind of beloved. So I think that if he said, come by and, all tapes are on sale for $1 or something, he would probably be wiped out pretty quickly.
And that's an opportunity to think about reusing all that stuff. And so at $1 a piece, that's a good deal for the buyers. It's also a way for our last heroic videotape seller.
That's right. The last video store.
To get out of the business without leaving pollution behind.
Yeah, exactly. Very interesting. All right. Well, anything else before we wrap up, Mitch?
Well, keep an eye on the site. We're continuing to do interesting things, and our relationship with Google, where you can now ask the Google Assistant how to recycle or where to recycle the materials in our database, is up and running and going gangbusters. So check us out on the Google Assistant.
Right. So look for us on Google Assistant. Excellent. All right, then. Well, thanks for listening to this episode of Sustainability in Your Ear. We hope that you turn in wherever you can find us for all of our conversations. And if you have some thoughts on topics you'd like to see us cover, we'd love to hear from you. You can send us an email, feedback@earth911.com. And you can find us always, and also put down the feedback at our earth911.com website. We will see you next time.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.